What's up, guys? It's Celeste, and it's been a while. I got really busy right around Christmas, and then this past week, unfortunately, I had to go to a funeral up in Atlanta, so I had planned to make this video that I'm doing right now in time for the end of the year, but things got a little bit derailed and extra busy last week, so it's a little bit late, but hopefully not too late, just a few days. At the end of every year, I always make a text post on whatever social media or blogging platform I'm using at the time, basically just reflecting on the previous year and talking about like the highlights of my year and like ways that I've grown and kind of just reflecting and then looking ahead and talking about my goals for the next year. So I already did that on Facebook, but since I'm doing videos now, I thought it would be a cool idea to make a video that kind of goes down a bullet list of the like high points of my year, and then I could drop in some pictures and video clips and everything to go along with it to make it a little bit more visual. So that's what I'm going to do now. So obviously the biggest part of my year in 2016 was that I came out. In May, I came out to my family, and then a few days after that, I came out as aromantic asexual on Facebook and talked about my relationship with Jason and the fact that it's not romantic or sexual and all that kind of stuff. And then I didn't want to come out as non-binary at that time on Facebook because I was afraid that it would be too confusing or like just too much to overwhelm people at the time. So I decided to wait on that, and so I came out as non-binary online in June. So for half of this year now, I've been out, and in some ways it seems like it's been much longer than that. It's hard to imagine that the first half of this year, or almost the first half, I wasn't out at all. That most people on Facebook, which is my primary social outlet or mode of communicating with people, didn't know that I was aro-ace or non-binary or really anything other than straight and cis. But I'm so glad that I came out, and I'm so glad that the response to my coming out has been so positive and supportive. I really haven't dealt with any really negative response from anybody, at least outwardly. There might be people who unfriended me or something that I don't really know about, but I mean, if they did, then they obviously weren't somebody I communicated with very often because I really haven't noticed anything like that. So it's been really great for me as far as just like being out and open about that itself, but then also it's had a really big impact on my confidence and my just kind of level of feeling present and authentic. Another thing that's really improved for me this year is I've had a lot of social insecurity in the past, not just social anxiety, not necessarily acute anxiety that I felt being around people. I have had that too, but just this feeling of fear that people would get sick of me and leave, or that they didn't really like me as much as they pretended to, and stuff like that. And I feel like that's improved a lot. That's the only reason for that is not my coming out, but it definitely was a big factor because it's made me feel more supported and more secure in things. The fact that I did come out and I got this positive response, it's made me feel like I can trust people more than maybe my fears led me to believe in the past, because being in the closet and any kind of carrying some kind of secret shame kind of thing really has a huge impact on your ability to connect with people, because you always feel like there's this disconnect between what the other person is seeing and what you actually are, who you actually are. And so coming out has allowed me to kind of take down this barrier that I was kind of having to constantly, not even consciously hold up. It's not like I went around pretending I was straight or cis or anything. It's just the fact that nobody knew. It made me feel disconnected and made me feel like there was this wall of misunderstanding, I guess, between me and other people. And so it's made it a lot easier now when I meet new people. I don't feel like I have to pretend anything, or I don't feel like I have to pretend with people I already knew. So that's been really, really amazing this year for me. And then even for myself personally, coming out has allowed me to have more space, I guess, to explore my gender and to some degree my sexuality, I guess, but that's not really something I really need to explore that much. I've kind of already gone through all that, which is probably one of the reasons I don't talk that much about my sexuality on here, or I haven't up to this point. I'm sure I will eventually. I have some things I want to talk about, but my gender is something I'm like actively, currently really exploring and thinking a lot about and everything. And I feel like my being out allows me to, like I said, have more space to come out to explore, because before I always felt kind of paranoid that if I explored too much outwardly or anything, that people would like figure me out and all that kind of stuff. So it's not even just like a conscious thing. It's the fact that I feel more secure in myself and my gender and everything. So I feel more like even just within myself, I'm able to think of things or like consider things that I really didn't allow myself to consider in the past. And then I also went to my first Pride Festival this year, which was amazing. Obviously, I made a video about that, so you can watch that if you haven't already. I will link it up above in the little card thing up there. As I mentioned, I also got to hang out with one of my best friends from childhood and adolescence, and so that was really nice. And just the fact that I could go to that and go to Pride and actually be out and be able to show my pride and talk about it on Facebook and with my parents and all this stuff is just, it's just huge for me. Like I couldn't have imagined being here really even at the beginning of this year. I mean, I had planned to come out at some time this year, but I couldn't predict what it would really feel like or what my life would be like afterward. In a lot of ways, I feel like the first maybe quarter to a third of this year, I didn't really do that much. I had some issues toward the beginning of the year around the end of February and then in March. For I guess a month or two, I can't remember exactly how long it lasted, but there were some things that I was going through that I was very depressed and very anxious and having a lot of emotional instability. And at this point, that kind of seems like a really long time ago. It seems weird that that was this year for me, but it was. And then probably around the time, I guess, that I came out, which again was in May, was probably when I feel like my year really started, because and it wasn't just because of that. It was just like the summer was when a lot of my big stuff from the year happened other than coming out. I started raising caterpillars this summer for the first time, and I mostly did monarchs, but also did a few eastern black swallowtails. I was just kind of watching them outside and just kind of observing them and watching them grow up and everything. I brought a couple of them in and raised them inside and got to release them for the first time. I kind of got in over my head after that because I ended up with a whole bunch more after I bought some more milkweed to plant, and it already had a whole bunch of eggs on it, like a lot of eggs. So I ended up with, I honestly don't even know how many caterpillars I had, but overall it was a really rewarding experience. And by the end, I had successfully released 67 monarch butterflies and 5 eastern black swallowtails. There were a lot of sudden learning experiences that happened with it. There were a couple that had broken wings that needed to be repaired. We were able to release the first one of those that we had, and his name was Jimbo, and we released him successfully, and it was wonderful being able to see him fly off after he had broken his wing. The second one that we had, unfortunately, because of the way that her wing was broken, and also the fact that she actually also had crumpled wings because she fell when she first emerged from the chrysalis, which was the reason that her wings were broken. She was not releasable. She couldn't fly at all, so she wouldn't have been able to defend herself or find food or really anything out in the wild. So we kept her kind of as a pet for 5 weeks, which is pretty long for a monarch. They usually only live for a few weeks. So that's kind of at the upper end of a monarch's lifespan. She couldn't fly, but she didn't really know that. So she was always trying to fly. And so she was always beating her wings against everything. And so they started to come apart, which butterflies cannot feel their wings. It's kind of like hair or something. So if they break or if they get cut or something, they don't feel pain when it happens. Obviously, it's not good for them in the long run if they lose so much of it that they can't fly, but there are butterflies that are out in the wild that are completely fine, that can fly, who have, huge chunks of their wings missing. But for her, she lost so much of her wings. Like by the end, she had hardly any wings left. And she was the last butterfly that we had. It kind of coincided with us going to Dragon Con. And then after that, I was really busy with other things. And so I had kind of wound down bringing in any caterpillars or dealing with any butterfly stuff. They were all outside at that point. So she was the last one we had. But next year, I'm sure I will do it again, although I will try not to get so overwhelmed because it really completely ate my life for several months. They were very high maintenance at the numbers that I had them at, which was a lot. And speaking of Dragon Con, the other big thing that I did this summer was work on my costumes, and this was actually the first year that I've ever had 2 costumes at Dragon Con. I did 11 from Stranger Things and Nathan Drake from Uncharted 2. And 11 was kind of a last minute addition because Stranger Things didn't even come out until I think July or something like that. It was only like a few weeks before Dragon Con. Thankfully, my mom was able to help me make the dress for 11, which was obviously the most complicated part. At the time, I hadn't seen anybody else who had made the dress, so I just kind of had to figure it out on my own. My mom definitely deserves probably 75% of the credit for the dress. It was a huge learning experience, and I'm really grateful to her for helping me with that. And the response to the costume was everything I could have hoped for at Dragon Con. I just got so much positive feedback, and it was just wonderful making everybody smile and seeing everybody get so excited for my costume and everything. And then with Nathan Drake, that was a costume that I've been wanting to do since I played Uncharted 2, which was however many years ago it came out. And I always wanted to do the costume, but I was way intimidated by it because I had never done anything with that many different pieces, and I didn't have any idea how to make the holster or really anything about the costume. So this year, I don't know, I just decided I was going to do it and I would figure it out, and I did. The whole thing was kind of an exercise in firsts because I had never done a lot of the stuff before. I had never worked with craft foam before, and that's what I used for the shoulder holster, the emblem on the front of the belt buckle, and the watch cuff. And the watch cuff and shoulder holster were supposed to be leather, and since I'm vegan, I don't use leather. So I was somehow able to get the craft foam to look pretty convincingly like leather, which was really challenging and everything, but it was also really fun to have that challenge and to somehow be able to meet it. And it was very challenging, but I'm so glad that it turned out as well as it did. So overall, the whole thing was just a huge learning experience. I learned so much about just all kinds of craft stuff and costuming and just, you know, hands-on stuff. But overall, I was just really proud and satisfied with how both of the costumes turned out. And as far as other creative stuff from 2016, obviously I started making YouTube videos, which I had never really done before. I've always been more into still photography. I've just learned so much technically, and also my confidence, I feel like, has improved a lot. I still get very anxious and kind of stressed when I'm making videos, but it's gotten a lot better, and I think it will just continue to get better as time goes on. And I guess the other sort of highlight of my year was getting my dates pierced, which I'm going to be doing an update on whenever the month after I got it done is, because I want to talk about whether it's helped me or not and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing that, so stay tuned for that. But that's about it for my year. I had a pretty big year, but, you know, the whole year as far as global and societal and political and life and death stuff was pretty awful. But for me personally, I had a lot of growth and some really positive experiences, and I just feel like I'm in a really good place in my life now that I just couldn't have imagined being at a year ago. So I'm really happy about that. And so looking forward to 2017, I don't really make really specific resolutions. I don't say like, well, I'm going to lose 10 pounds or I'm going to like do, I don't know, like whatever people do for resolutions. But instead I have kind of general goals that are, you know, I guess sort of vague sounding, that maybe for some people those wouldn't be helpful because they want something concrete that they can say whether or not they succeeded at it. But for me, it's more about kind of pointing myself in a direction and kind of focusing on what I want to work on as opposed to where I end up. So my goals for 2017 are to continue to challenge myself creatively, which means both improving upon things that I'm already working on, which I have a lot of things that would be classified as creative pursuits that I have that are hobbies and interests and everything. So there's already a lot to improve upon. And then also keeping open for new outlets and new things that I haven't done before, because like I said, I hadn't done video before really, and I didn't start the year planning to do video. It was something that I had always had an interest in. Like, I had thought that I would like to do video, but I was very intimidated by it, and I didn't have any immediate plans to do it. So it just kind of happened, and I'm really glad that it did. So I want to stay open to things that maybe I haven't really even thought about at this point. And the second thing, which is kind of difficult to balance with the first, is majorly reducing my possessions. Because I have way too much stuff. Like, most people don't understand how much stuff we actually have in our house. It's a complete wreck. And there's just so much stuff that it's hard to really get anything done because it's just so overwhelming. But part of the problem with that is that we both have so many interests in it, so it's hard because we need all these materials, and, you know, we have all these collectibles and, you know, all this stuff that just keeps coming in and then nothing really goes out. So I'm really going to try to work hard on getting rid of things because I have just way too much stuff, and it's just impossible to organize because there's just too much of it. I mean, it's just completely impossible. It's just overwhelming. So I'm really going to work on that. And then the final thing, which is the most important, is live more fearlessly and actively. And what I mean by that is basically just that this past year, you know, the main thing that I've really taken away from this past year, both from my personal experiences and from experiences like culturally, or, you know, the stuff I was talking about, a lot of people died this year that were really inspirational and really authentic and open about themselves. And that's really something that's always inspired me and something I've always worked toward, but I feel even more motivated to be more like that now, because I feel like, you know, we only get so much time on this earth, and I don't really want to waste my time trying to like coast under the radar and all this stuff when I could be really having an impact on people and being myself. And it's also not really the way that I feel like I can really have an impact on the world around me. I feel like there's just so much stuff that it has been easy for so long to kind of, you know, maybe have an opinion on, but not really do anything about. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be more active, and I want to feel like I have some impact and some hand in what's going on around me and in my life and in the world. I guess just kind of not being a spectator and not just existing, but trying to really live my life and trying to be more full and to be fearless in how I pursue that and how I take risks with myself socially and creatively, and, you know, just trying new things and not being afraid of failing as much as I have in the past. So that's definitely my biggest goal for this year. I would love to hear about your goals or resolutions for 2017, and also anything that happened for you in 2016 that was really positive or life-changing. Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. But thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.